Hello everyone and welcome to CFC Fan TV. Now Ben, as you all know, is a new person on the channel and he had a fantastic idea that we should do a video on the best and worst transfers that Chelsea have had in the last few years. So this is not going back all the way back because there's been a few in there. But we're going to do the most recent ones in the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years. So fantastic idea and I approve. So we're going to do it, aren't we, Dom? Yeah, Dom's still here. So let's get cracking. So we're going to do 5 of the best and 5 of the worst. We're going to do best, worst, best, worst. We're going to do it like that. So let's start the video off on a high. In at number 1, one of the best transfers we've ever had, which has to be at the top. Yep. Eden Hazard.
It's got to be. He came in just after Champions League win. He wasn't renowned on the world stage, but he was well known on the low level, I think. He's come in and he's really made the Premier League his own.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you've seen at the weekend after our win against West Ham and his fantastic goal, especially the first goal. Yeah. John Terry said he's the best player in the Premier League. Johnny Morris said he's the best player in the Premier League, and I have to agree. He is definitely, and he does things. You know, when as another player, you must just be like shaking yourself every single time that you play against him, mustn't you? Because if you're a player that can run through 4 or 5 defenders, you know you've got some problems, don't you?
I think he just makes a team, and Chelsea, they were okay on Monday night. They weren't setting the world alight, but that man, he just made the difference. He was absolutely superb.
It made it feel like a bigger game than what it was.
100%, and he's able to do it for Chelsea when it really matters.
Yeah. Okay, next one, we're going to do one of our worst transfers. Shall I kick this one off? In at number 1, do you know what? I'm going to go with Falcao.
Yes.
What was that?
I think he just adds to the long list of Chelsea strikers who just haven't really been able to do it.
It was a complete waste of time, really, wasn't it? I mean, you'd think by getting him in that it would sort of add a bit of a sparkle to the team and a few extra goals here and there, but it didn't work out at all, did it?
No, I completely agree. I think he never really found his mojo once he left Atletico.
It was a very short spell, wasn't it?
It was, but I just think really he wasn't suited to the Premier League, and it's very similar to a player who I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
I know which one you're talking about.
I just don't think he had the physicality and the pace to keep up with the Premier League style of play.
Yeah. Okay, our second best player. Do you want to do this one?
I'm going to go for N'Golo Kante.
My favourite. What a bargain. And do you know what I love about this one as well? He said he tried to sign for Chelsea because it was his dream. He really so wanted to play for Chelsea. Yeah. And for me, I don't think he would have won our last couple of titles without him. I think he's been so phenomenal. Yes. And although you may not agree with whether he's playing his right position or not, and I do think he's one of the best holding midfielders in the world, and I really do think he should be there. Regardless of that, I think he makes Chelsea such a better team, and if Hazard does leave, I'm so glad that we have somebody stable in the team. I just think what he does is something, and I think he was crucial in why Leicester won the league, and you saw what happened to Leicester when he left. Yeah,
well, he joined us in the summer of 2016 for, relatively speaking, quite a modest price.
I thought, definitely for him.
The amount we paid for him, and he really has just made this Chelsea side his own.
I think he's worth way more now.
100%. Fantastic player, and I think he'll get into any team in the Premier League.
I actually remember when we signed him, because we had a terrible transfer window, that window. I thought, okay, we've only really signed him, but is he all we need? And I think he was. I think we thought he was fantastic.
Really fantastic.
Okay, in at number 2 then, for one of our worst transfers. Shall I go with this one?
Go on.
It's going to have to be Morata, isn't it? Listen, I feel bad. I feel bad for all the criticism he got, because I actually probably think he's one of the nicest guys out there. But for 70 million, it really went all downhill, didn't it? The minute he started off quite well, got a few goals in, and then all of a sudden he got injured, then he never really came back from that. And I think, do you know what, for me, I think when you're not scoring goals, it's more about what else you contribute. And at the end of the day, I think fans got so frustrated with him is because all he really did was fall on the floor. And this is the Premier League. If you fall on the floor, you're actually more likely to get a yellow card than you are to get a foul in your favour. So
I think that's why a lot of people wanted Giroud to start a lot this season, because while Giroud wasn't scoring so many goals, he was linking up bits of play. And I think he had a bit more of a rounded feel than Morata did. I think his performance against Palace at home earlier in the season really summed him up. Scored 2 quite nice goals, 92nd minute, through on goal for his first ever Chelsea hat-trick, maybe he scored one before. He goes to chip the keeper, and I think it just sums Morata up. Good, but just not quite there.
Not a Premier League player. You've got to be physically strong, and I wish him all the best of luck in his new club, and I think he'll actually end up doing quite well there. It just won't work out in the Premier League, unfortunately. It's a completely different ballgame.
100%.
Okay, in at number 3 then, for one of our best players. Who are we going to go with?
Who are we going for, Sam?
Yeah, who we are actually going for? Who did we say?
Kante, Hazard.
Oh,
Dave.
We're going to go with Dave.
Yes.
Now, listen, he may not have had the best season so far, but for the price tag we paid for him and for what he's come in and done, actually, to be fair, for him, he's a right back, and he played at left, he then played in the middle, now he's back at the right. I just think he's been a breath of fresh air, really, and I don't agree with any dislike or any hate that comes towards that man.
I completely agree with you, and I think actually we're talking about Chelsea men. Dave epitomises the phrase Chelsea man, because he gives his art, he plays with everything he's got, he shows the passion to the fans, and actually as a supporter that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
He may not be performing at this top level on a week in, week out basis, but he gives 100%, and I think that's, as supporters, that's all we can want in our captain, really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people said that situation with Kepa at Wembley, when he didn't go over and sort of try and get him off the pitch, that wasn't captain material, but I think that's something that he'll learn from. He'll look back on and think, okay, what could I have done better? But I think that was more of a deeper rooted issue with the manager, and it was a bit of a conflicting thing there. So he may have just thought, oh God, I don't want to get involved in this again. So whether you like it or not, I think he in time will be a fantastic captain for us, and I think there's nobody better for the job at the moment. I think he is a solid defender. I don't think anybody's had the best season this season, have they? But if you look at it over the last few years, what he's come and done, especially when JT was in the side, I think at times he was our best player on the pitch. So Dave, you're definitely a fantastic signing. Okay, in at number 3 is one of our worst signings then. I am going to go with Pato.
Okay, fine.
What was that about? What was that about?
He's got only a couple of goals for us. Without repeating myself, again, it's another big name in the world of football, who's just gone onto the Chelsea list of strikers who've only scored a couple of goals.
We've signed some bad strikers, haven't we?
We really have.
Is that because it's too much pressure for them when they come to Chelsea, or is it just the Premier League?
I think it's got to be the Premier League. You've got the phrase, they can do it on the world stage, but can they do it on a cold Tuesday night in Stoke? A lot of these strikers just can't, and I think Pato is one of those. He was very, I don't want to say precious because that makes him sound weak, but I think that he just didn't have the muscle that you need for...
Too soft for the Premier League, but that's what I say. Many players can be fantastic in Liga and Serie A, whatever. They come to Chelsea, they come to Chelsea or they come to the Premier League, it doesn't work out for them.
Which is a shame, because Chelsea spent some really good money on some strikers.
Tell me about it.
Pato was another example of one who just didn't turn good, and I feel that it's a theme with Chelsea strikers. We didn't really replace Drogba for a couple of years until Costa came along, and I feel that we still haven't replaced Costa, even though he left a couple of years ago.
Word, I agree. Okay, in at number 4 then, for one of our best signings and one of my favourite ever Chelsea players, a player that I wished was still at Chelsea, has got to be Ramirez.
Yes.
It took him a while to settle in. I remember fans saying, you know what, I think he's had his time now, but I'm so glad we stuck it out with him, because he was, which is probably why I'm being a bit more lenient towards Jorginho, really, although he's making a few more mistakes. But listen, I think Ramirez, that goal in Barcelona is one of my favourite goals to date, but besides that, I just think he was so crucial to our Chelsea team, and I think he was fantastic.
Yeah, he was the engine in the workroom, really.
Yeah.
He just ran and ran and ran. He was hard-working, got his head down. He wasn't the biggest personality. He was never going to get into the centre of it, but he was always working for Chelsea, and that's all you can really ask for your central midfield, just to continue to work. And I think really,
he was one of those who didn't even need to score a goal. Really, it was more assists and what he could do. Well, not behind the scenes, but it didn't have to be the star man every game. He just got on with it. And when we sold him, I really thought that was a bad decision. If he could come back to Chelsea at any point, I'd welcome him any day.
That was a surprising one, because he signed his new contract in December, and then only a month later he was off to China, I think.
It's crazy, wasn't it? Money talks, doesn't it, at the end of the day? But I think the option's open for him to come back if he wants to.
Fingers crossed.
Whenever you want to, Ramirez. Okay, then. Our next... Is this our final one, or have we got one more after this?
I think this is number 5.
Yeah. We've done Falcao, we've done Morata, we've done Pato. No, this is our 4th.
It's number 4.
Bakayoko.
Yeah, it's got to be Bakayoko.
It's such a shame, because that game in Atletico Madrid, at the end, at one time it was the N'Golo song with the Bakayoko and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden it went downhill. He brought a bit of magic to that Atletico Madrid game, and he was playing really well for a while, and then it all went down.
It went downhill and then some. I thought Bakayoko last season.
But he's performing very well at his new club.
Yes, but as we've said, you can't do it all for your new club. We need it for Chelsea, and I think his performance against Watford last season, losing the ball, I think, 7 times in about 10 minutes, and then getting sent off after half an hour. Just
not so good Bakayoko, but you've got cool hair, and I used to love the banter. He used to have with fans on social media. He used to be really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
He could be back at the bridge. He could be back at the bridge in the summer.
Transfer ban. I think we'll get anybody back that we can, really. Okay, then one of our last players that we decided to put in for one of our best transfers is going to be Juan Mata. Now, listen, there was a point where he was undoubtedly Chelsea's best player on the pitch, and then when Mourinho came in, I think he sort of chose between him and Oscar, and he decided to keep Oscar. Yep. Obviously, Oscar then left, so that was a big no-no. Should we have sold him?
I really don't know. I feel that he would have been a fantastic player for Chelsea, and I think he's actually shown at United. He's not been one of their stars, but I think actually this Chelsea side, our midfield at times, has really come into question. And I think Juan Mata would have been a fantastic, versatile player who's got a lot of Champions League experience. He's a World Cup winner, and I think actually
he'd worked well under Sarri.
100%. And there's been a lot of questions about the amount of soul in the dressing room, and Juan Mata would have been one of those players just to have grounded everyone a little bit. And I think over the last couple of years, that's what we really could have done with. But whilst he played for Chelsea, I thought he was superb.
Yeah, what I couldn't agree more. Okay, and last but not least, then, for some of our worst signings, who are you going to go for?
I think it's got to be, I know it's going back a little bit, but it's got to be Andrei Shevchenko.
Now, he did score a couple of good goals,
He
a
did.
few good goals here and there. But it's for the price tag that we paid for him. How much did we pay?
I believe it was in the region of 35 million.
Yeah, around the 30 million mark.
10 years ago, it was just unheard of. It was, I think, the largest transfer at the time.
At the time, I think I remember Jose Mourinho saying that that wasn't his decision, that was more of a board signing, and that's why it never really gelled together.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I think this is a prime example. Now, don't get me wrong, I think he's a brilliant player. I think it's a prime example of buying an amazingly good player, but not thinking about how he'll fit in with the rest of the squad.
Absolutely, and I think it just wasn't a Chelsea signing, particularly at the time. He was just he had a bit too much flair, and it just wasn't going to come in. He was going to try and replace Drogba. It just wasn't going to happen, was it?
Yeah. He scored an early goal quite early on, I think, in his first few games, and after that it seemed to just deteriorate, didn't really come into play, did it? And then there were not really any outstanding performances from him, I have to say. So yeah, unfortunately you've got to go in there, but I still think you're a fantastic player nevertheless.
I'll disagree.
Oh yeah. So there you have it. Those are our top 5 best and worst Chelsea transfers in recent years. I'm sure if we go back way further, there are lots more. But comment below, let us know who you think our best and worst signings have been in recent years. And yeah, if you like this video, subscribe. And if you want to see Dom, like I always say, comment below and let me know, and I'll get him back on.